Each edge of the present Earth is steaming with life, from profound caverns to airflows as high as possible, from tropical woods to volcanoes. You will find life basically crude, organic entities wherever creatures, plants, parasites, and microbes have figured out how to adjust to the cruelest conditions. Has it forever been similar to this in our reality? Music, really, our Earth has been not the most amicable of spots for most of its presence. How about we cast our psyche back to the Archean Age, the earliest time when life was known to be near? It started a long time back and went on for roughly 1.5 billion years. The early Earth had quite recently gone through the second weighty siege. A few thousand tons of rough trash from the development of the planetary group was flung to the planet, crushing the slight basalt covering that had recently shaped on the outer layer of liquid magma. Even after this experience, the youthful Earth chilled once more and acquired its most memorable lithosphere simply 1 billion years after the fact. It became home to the absolute first residing creatures. The Earth of that period had a relatively smooth surface, structural plates, that is, rough bodies that make high mountain edges on impact, were basically non-existent at that early time. There was no variety in rocks on the early Earth. Either banks of wars and shakes were in the primary phases of development. The vast majority of the world's outside layer was comprised of the blade, a stone framed from magma, and generally it is strong. Magma. There was practically no oxygen in the environment. In the Archean, the grouping of nitrogen was extensively more modest than it is currently. The Earth was covered in a thick combination of water fume and carbon dioxide, with a high level of oxides of sulfur, phosphorus, and other dynamic substance components. The sun was a lot dimmer then than it is presently. As per a few gauges, its radiance was even 30%. Not exactly that of today. To that end, our planet was a seriously dinky spot. The moon actually used to wind up in closeness to it. So a day endured just close to 10 hours. Concerning tsunamis, they came up from a few dozen to 300 meters. As the Earth step-by-step chilled water in the air consolidated and poured down in heavy rains. At first it collected in quite a while of water in swamps. This water was sharp, pungent, and very hot. Up a bubbling extent in certain spots, its creation looked like that of the present geysers. Strangely, this apparently unforgiving climate ended up being the support for crude life shapes that began and developed there. It's a given that first organic entities were anaerobic, as opposed to breathing oxygen as we do, which was non-existent in the environment. At the time, first living organic entities depended on different wellsprings of energy. Archean organic entities were not yet ready to swim to endure. They required a substrate. For that reason, the biosphere of the time was a dainty, disgusting film of not in excess of 1 millimeter in width on the lower part of a harsh and blistering sea. In its waterfront region, the maximal profundity the biosphere arrived at down really depended on 20 meters, as the thick air didn't permit sunbeams to enter further. The mouths of submerged volcanoes offered territories to microbes that were chemotrophs. These microscopic organisms didn't require light and benefited from other energy sources, depending on synthetic responses between sulfur mixtures and iron. The Earth was chilling, ocean levels rose, the air turned out to be more tenuous, and the sun continuously filled in size. The waterfront region positive for life was likewise bit by bit extending, and toward the finish of the Archean Age, the biosphere was restricted to a slender stripe along the coasts and furthermore desert spring. Figuratively speaking, on the ocean floor close to dynamic volcanoes. In the meantime, all the land streams and most of the untamed sea were still totally, completely dead, assuming a pioneer were to visit the Earth. Of that period, stromatolites would be the main proof of life seen with the unaided eye. These sedimentary limestone arrangements were made by early-stage microorganisms and may arrive at up to a few meters in level. There was one more issue in that age. The measures of regents were lacking, and that enormously hindered the development of life. Development hadn't yet delivered Rummage's creatures, benefiting from dead tissue subsequently. Affected by gravity and ocean flows, dead animals collected in holes on the ocean bottom. Countless years after the fact, these gatherings were handled essentially into what is presently oil fields around 3.5 a long time back. There are arisen animals that were to change the earth to the point of being unrecognizable. A few microbes got the hang of photosynthesis, including oxygen creation, 1 billion years after the fact on the line between the Archean and the Proterozoic ages. Their upset achieved the most worldwide elimination throughout the entire existence of the planet. It is known as the oxygen fiasco, to name. However, one term I've spoken in more insight regarding it in a prior video. It is not really imaginable to gauge the size of that occasion, as a mind-boggling larger part of the animals didn't get saved as fossils. Essentially, all the variety of anaerobic structures that had required 1 billion years to develop disappeared off the essence of the Earth. The old Earth's climate was extraordinarily wealthy in methane as solid, ozone-harming substance. It heartily oxidizes, creating carbon dioxide and water during the cycle, with methane's fixation in the air decreasing the temperature in the world diminished as well. Because of this interaction, there happened the Huronian glaciation, the most enormous scope ice age throughout the entire existence of the Earth, what began quite a while back and went on for up to 300 million years. Diggings uncovered that in certain areas ice covers came to the extent that the equator with the planet completely changed into a bundle of ice. It took the Earth 1.5 billion years to go as far as possible from flaunting, bubbling magma fields to unending frigid deserts. The Proterozoic age endured from over 2 billion years to quite a while back. Life continued on, notwithstanding the cold and development, albeit frustrated. Continued by and by, land stayed dormant. Living creatures gathered in the waterfront region close to the equator and what was going on the mainlands. Despite the fact that they weren't creeping with life, yet land was encountering something else, and fascinating in its own specific manner. Close by, the land masses, banks of metal paddles and new shakes were being framed in the Proterozoic age areas of dry land. On the other hand, expected various perspectives and were vast ice sheets and stone deserts all at once or another. It is difficult to envision, yet only a long time back, the larger part of our planet showed up very like a Martian desert. Fortunately for every one of the tenants of our planet, the sun was developing more splendid and hotter. Ultimately, the ice gave in quite a while back. There started the Phanerozoic age, which is the Greek for the age of noticeable life. It was unconventional for times of dynamic development of various species joined with mass terminations. I have educated you regarding the significant ones. However, what was the Earth like in those days toward the start of the Paleozoic period? Most of land shaped a Goliath supercontinent named Gondwana, situated in the southern half of the globe. It had elaborate territory and covered more than 100 million square kilometers. It was contained the present Africa, South America, Antarctica, Australia, the Indian promontory, and a few different regions, the more modest land masses of the day. Laurentia, Baltica, and Siberia were arranged close to the equator, separated from all that there was an extraordinary number of more modest islands, still up until the Silurian time frame. What began roughly quite a while back, there weren't any life structures to discuss on this multitude of scopes. Just a few basic greeneries and lichens were gradually laying out their strength ashore. It was exclusively toward the start of the Silurian time frame that first plants arose in quite a while and close to waterways and just in the equatorial area at that. Even regardless of the way that ocean species and plants turned out to be more different, marine living things actually focused close to the coasts. The region populated steadily extended. Just to give you a model, the profundity of the sea at which photosynthesis was ready to happen in the Devonian was only 50 meters, which is multiple times, however little as it very well might be currently in a similar period, which started quite a while back and went on until quite a while back. The main decomposers arose organic entities, deteriorating diet tissue subsequently there arose creatures benefiting from results of disintegration, for instance close by rummaging microbes. There could be found ocean weepers at profundities of up to 500 meters. The following time frame was the Carboniferous time frame. It went on from 358 to a long time back. When it started, most of the equatorial area was covered with tree greeneries. Thick tropical timberlands didn't develop as a mass. There were no organic entities in those days that would deteriorate to that end. Cumbersome trunks of trees didn't run when they kicked the bucket and passed no supplements to their relatives. They remained lying without rotting, and the phosphorus in their bodies, so essential for plants, couldn't be separated. Subsequently, with time, lavish sappy virgia gave way to tremen, dust piles of dead wood covering gigantic stretches of land. Later, they framed rich stores of coal, which is still generally utilized by humanity in different businesses in regions other than the jungles. Just growths, greeneries, and lichens could be found. They couldn't solidify the upper layer of the earth by their foundations, and thus downpour effectively washed it off with waterways transforming into sloppy streams and lakes, becoming rotten swamps. Dry regions became dead abandons. It was when fishes were energetically developing in the oceans and waterways. Despite the fact that life hadn't yet branched out of the shadow sea, green growth hadn't figured out how to drift, yet thus life was as yet restricted to beachfront regions. The Carboniferous time frame was trailed by the Permian period. It started 299 and completed quite a while back. The principal creatures of land and water thought for even a moment to begin investigating area, and plants spread to overcome subtropics. The oceans stayed populated exclusively in shallow waters near the coasts. The Permian time frame got done with the most enormous elimination occasion. Throughout the entire existence of multicellular life, as per a few evaluations, up to 96% of marine species and 73% of land species ceased to exist. It is as yet not understood what caused such a worldwide mortality. The Triassic time of the Mesozoic period expeditiously got the ball really rolling, carrying life to another level during the cycle. Without precedent for history of the Earth, calm scopes could flaunt a few woods. Another progressive occasion occurred in the ocean where blue-green growth arose, a sort looking like the present relatives. It was not essential for them to reside in a substrate any longer, thus photos. Synthetic microorganisms immediately spread across the upper layer of the worldwide sea, enticed by the food fishes, mollusks, and arthropods followed it. Natural extras chose the ocean depths. Accordingly, ocean floor occupants were plentifully provided with food. Also, the worldwide sea was accepting a perspective near the present. The Mesozoic time endured from 250 to quite a while back. It is partitioned into three periods: the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. This is when dinosaurs flourished. Honestly, the most notable ancient animals that became subject of component and sci-fi films how these ages are portrayed, we could get the possibility that the Earth was covered with tropical woodlands from the poles to the equator. As a matter of fact, it is totally off base. Without a doubt, timberlands arrived at northern scopes, yet simply because the typical temperature in the world was a lot higher than it is presently. In the meantime, central regions, running against the norm, endured dry spells, with the backwoods quickly spreading across the whole Earth's surface. There were still loads of bogs and deserts around the ladders were not just burning hot. Furthermore, dry as we're accustomed to envisioning them, yet in addition, moderate cool and surprisingly damp, with no herbaceous plants around. Soils couldn't join themselves to rough slants. Just lichens can develop on desolate rocks. Blossoming plants became bountiful exclusively by the center of the Cretaceous time frame that is around quite a while back. Strangely, the main assortments were trees, and toward the finish of the period there arose plants like the present spices, contrasted with a powerful oak or a monster sequoia. Customary grass seems immaterial. Yet, it is equipped for something tree Goliaths aren't. By blending their small roots on the ground, they help structure and reinforce the turf. This not just makes soil harder and keeps it from getting washed off or dissolving, yet in addition deals with disposing of overabundance water by allowing it to dissipate and collecting water when there is an absence of it on arising herbaceous plants, transformed deserts into steppes, grasslands and savannas, swamps into floodglades and permafrost regions, into tundra and tundra steppe. When the Cretaceous time frame was reaching its end, the Earth had begun to look like the Earth of today. It was missing only one significant touch vertebrates. This kind of creatures had been around for quite a long time, yet the animals were not extremely far and wide for the rest of the Mesozoic period. It is as yet not satisfactory. What made dinosaurs become wiped out a Goliath? Shooting star worldwide cooling, and different ideas are recorded among the alleged guilty parties one way or the other. These monster saurians disappeared. Hence emptying a unique specialty for warm-blooded animals, it took them 66 million years to develop from little marsupials into lofty whales, perilous tigers, extreme camels, and entertaining bats. In the long-run development, delivered a one-of-a-kind animal categories, the main living animal fit for adjusting to nature as well as transforming it. The being that concentrates coal-shaped of that large number of dead trees from a long period of time back to heat up one's residence, the animal eliminating different species for cache of a game, the animal transforming huge regions into no-mans. Land in quest for childish thought processes. This is Homo sapiens, or the human. Dear companions, it has taken us a long time and a ton of work to make this video. For that reason, we truly value each and every. Like you give us your help is an extraordinary inspiration for us to continue making new recordings for every one of you to appreciate. Go ahead and let us know your thought process in the remarks beneath. We should stay in contact, so